People have always died. People have always died before they were people, right? I mean, I suppose the easy definition is death is the end of your life. Is death the end, or is there an afterlife? When you die, that will be the end. You will not exist again forever.
사실 오늘날 우리의 죽음은 대부분 병원에서 이루어집니다. 조금이라도 죽음을 늦추기 위해 고군분투하기 때문이죠. 물론 이건 환자의 뜻에 달려 있습니다. 어떤 사람들은 생명만 연장하는 데 불과한 생명유지 장치를 달고 있는 것이 의미 없다고 여기기도 합니다. 그래서 2018년부턴 한국에서도 환자의 가족 2인 이상이 환자의 뜻이라는 사실을 입증하면 의사 2인의 확인을 거쳐 연명 치료를 중단할 수 있습니다. 사실 안락사나 존엄사에 대한 논쟁은 세계적인 화두입니다.
So it is certainly the case that there's an expression that we use. I imagine you've got something similar: death with dignity, and precisely that. When death gets shunted off and the person dies alone in their hospital bed, it's very, very common for medicine, American hospitals, I'm sure the same thing in South Korean, to do everything they possibly can to keep people alive a day longer, a week longer, or something like that. But these people often have very, very poor quality of life in their last days. And it's as though you can't face the fact that it's going to come tomorrow, it's going to come next week. It's not only as though the patients can't face it, it's as though the doctors can't face it. It's as though doctors think the only important thing is keeping the person alive for another day or another week. When she was dying, we told her, you're dying. There are certain things that we can do that might keep you alive a little bit longer. Do you want them to be done? And she said, no, she's had a great life. Her time has come. And then the members of her family were able to come visit her and say goodbye. That strikes me as a, it's tragic, I still miss her, but that strikes me as a wonderful way to die. And it's horrible that developed societies, medical practice don't see the value of doing that. And it's a shortcoming in the kind of training that the medical profession gets, the doctors in particular get, that thinking harder about how should the end of life actually proceed, that's not part of their education. The focus is almost totally on questions about keep people alive as much as possible. I think that's a mistake.
그런데 품위 있는 죽음이란 뭘까요? 의학적 생명 연장을 하지 않는다는 게 꼭 품위 있는 죽음을 의미하는 것일까요? 죽음의 질 1위 국가 영국. 죽음이 생의 자연스러운 한 과정이라는 사실을 통해 삶의 변화를 꾀하고 있습니다. 죽음 알림 주간이란 이름으로 매년 5월이면 다양한 죽음 관련 행사가 열리죠. 평소에 하지 않던 혹은 할 수 없었던 죽음에 대한 이야기를 일주일 동안 어디에서든지 자연스럽게 하고 깊이 있게 생각해보는 기간입니다. 영국 사람들이 처음부터 죽음에 호의적이었던 것은 아닙니다. 이러한 사회 분위기를 바꾼 것은 정부였습니다. 죽음에 대한 사회적 준비가 부족함을 직시한 영국 정부는 2009년부터 죽음 알림 주간 행사를 열기 시작했습니다. 덕분에 영국은 현재 죽음의 질 1위 국가가 될 수 있었죠. 죽음 알림 주간이 아니더라도 죽음을 이야기할 수 있는 공간이 있습니다. 맛있는 음식과 음료를 먹으며 죽음에 대한 이야기를 스스럼 없이 할 수 있는 자유로운 공간. 바로 데스카페입니다. 카페 안은 죽음에 대한 이야기로 가득합니다. 오늘 처음 만난 사람들이지만 각자의 마음속에 담아두었던 죽음에 대한 이야기를 하며 서로에게 힘이 되고 있는 이들. 지금 이곳의 사람들은 죽음을 이야기하며 삶의 새로운 의미를 찾아가고 있습니다.
The same social phenomenon is happening in the United States. These groups of people coming together and just chatting about death. And insofar as death is a topic that we should all think about, should discuss, should be willing to discuss with one another and share our ideas about, and certainly each of us should work out to our own satisfaction what we think the correct views about this is, then it's all commendable. That is, if we can shift the social norms away from thinking that these things shouldn't be discussed to thinking that there's a place for them. And mind you, like everything else, there's a time and there's a place. If some student in my class is on a date, you know, and they're busy kissing their girlfriend, right? And then they start thinking about the fact that someday, you know, that the girl they're kissing is going to die and her flesh will rot and she'll turn into a corpse, you know, buried in the ground. It kind of ruins the mood. And so there's a time and a place, and that's not the time and that's not the place. But the fact of the matter is, most of us only think about death in two places. We sometimes think about it in church, or we think about it in church or temple or whatever it might be, and we sometimes think about it in the loneliness of the bedroom as we're lying in bed in the dark, and that's not a good time for thinking clearly about things either. So one of the reasons why I designed the class, and one of the reasons why that I published the death book, was precisely because I had the sense that these are things that everybody at some time wants to think about, but there aren't a lot of opportunities for thinking it through systematically outside of the context of religion. And again, it's not that I have anything against religion, you know, at all, but that's not the only way of thinking about things. And so if there are things that change in pockets of society where this topic becomes something that people feel more comfortable talking about, that's great.
죽음과 삶이 거울 같은 것이라고 한다면 품이 있는 죽음이란 곧 품이 있는 삶을 의미합니다. 셸리 케이건 교수가 이제껏 닫혀있던 죽음의 문을 개방하고 죽음에 대해 이야기를 시작한 이유죠. 그래서 조금 뻔하지만 이 질문을 하지 않을 수 없습니다.
Then what kind of death do you want to face? You know, as we learn, like we're dying in a way.
Well, I'd rather die at home. What I'd like to have, if I could just write the script, if I was the playwright, what I'd like to be is to be healthy until a ripe old age, and then be told, roughly speaking, a year ahead of time, I've got a year left. Because there are certain things that I might want to do that I would have enough time to do if I knew I had a year. But I wouldn't have enough time if I was told the day before, or even a week before. And then I'd like to know, you're down to your last few days, and I'd want to be with my family. I'd want to call up my friends if they were still alive, and tell them that I love them and how much they meant to me, and express my gratitude for what they had been to me in my life. And I certainly want to do that with my family. And then I'd like to die, as I imagine we all would. I want to die peacefully in my sleep, in my own bed.
죽음은 진정한 행복의 문을 열어주는 열쇠다. 18세기 오스트리아의 작곡가 모차르트의 말입니다. 이번 인터뷰에서 셸리 케이건 교수와 나눴던 모든 대화도 결국 이 말로 귀결되죠. 누구에게나 죽음은 찾아옵니다. 하지만 현대 사회의 죽음은 실제의 삶과 너무나 동떨어져 있습니다. 우리는 미디어에서 수많은 죽음들을 목격합니다. 그렇다고 죽음에 대해 생각할 기회가 늘어난 것은 아닙니다. 오히려 죽음은 파편화된 채 빠르게 소비되고 또 빠르게 잊혀지죠. 가까운 이들의 죽음조차 병원에서나 일어나는 특별한 일이 되어버렸습니다. 그리고 이러한 죽음의 망각은 삶의 긴장감을 놓치게 합니다. 우리가 다시금 죽음을 직시해야 하는 이유입니다. 지금 이 순간에도 삶의 마지막 순간은 한 걸음씩 다가옵니다. 스스로에게 질문을 던져볼 기회죠. 여러분에게 삶의 의미는 무엇인가요? 지금 충실한 삶을 살고 있나요?